Pay attention to Jessica Heeringa, 25 years old, restocking shelves at an Exxon gas station in Norton Shores, Michigan, at 10:45 p.m. on a Friday night. She has less than 20 minutes left to live. Because Jeffrey Willis, 35 years old, a janitor with a van full of restraints and medical instruments, is watching from the parking lot. On this day, Jessica planned to close up shop and drive home to her 3-year-old son. On this day, Jeffrey intended to make her disappear forever. This is the story of 15 minutes that changed everything, and the investigation that would take 3 years to expose a killer hiding in plain sight.
I am innocent. I stand before you today proof that the promise of Gideon is dead. Not only did the justice system for indigent defense fail here, but the promise of equal protection and due process as well.
In April of 2013, Jessica's life seemed poised on the edge of transformation. She had her family, her plans, her routine. Every night, she'd count the register, lock the front door, and drive home through the quiet Michigan streets. She had no idea that someone had been studying those routines, timing her movements, preparing for the moment when she'd be most vulnerable. On paper, Jeffrey Willis worked maintenance jobs and kept to himself. But beneath that surface lurked something far darker. For weeks, he'd been visiting Jessica's gas station, sometimes multiple times per day. Surveillance would later reveal he'd stopped there 15 times in the weeks before her disappearance. Not for gas, not for cigarettes. He was hunting. The night before Jessica vanished, something strange happened. A woman chatting with Jessica near closing time mentioned she should be careful working alone so late. A male customer nearby overheard and interjected, "She's got customers looking out for her too." Jessica visibly shivered and shook her head. The woman noticed the odd reaction and waited outside in her car until the unsettling man left. Nothing happened that night, but Jeffrey Willis was patient. Friday, April 26th, 2013, started like any other workday. Jessica clocked in at 4:35 p.m., anticipating another quiet evening shift. Her boyfriend stopped by around 7 p.m. to chat. A friend visited later. The hours passed normally until approximately 9 p.m., when witnesses inside the store noticed a silver van pull up outside. They watched Jessica walk out to the pumps and speak with the driver. She laughed, seemed comfortable. The conversation looked friendly, almost familiar. The van drove away. Nobody could see who was behind the wheel from their angle inside the store. Only Jessica saw his face. 2 hours later, the same silver van returned. At approximately 10:55 p.m., the store manager, riding past on her motorcycle, noticed something odd. A silver Chrysler Town & Country minivan was pulling around to the back of the gas station. Why would anyone drive behind the building that late? The pumps were out front. Her first thought was theft. Maybe Jessica loading stolen merchandise. She pulled closer to investigate. In the darkness behind the store, she saw a figure standing at the van's rear hatch. The door was open. The figure closed it, then quickly opened it again, adjusting something inside. The detail that would haunt investigators later. The rear door had no external handle. It could only be opened from inside the vehicle. The manager got a glimpse of the driver as the van pulled away. A man in a red or orange sweatshirt with wild, wavy hair. She didn't see Jessica, didn't hear screaming. Everything seemed oddly quiet. Minutes later, at 11:10 p.m., a customer walked into the Exxon station and found it abandoned. Lights on. Register full. Jessica's purse and jacket still behind the counter. But no Jessica. The customer walked around the building, calling out. Silence answered. He dialed 911.
I walked inside. There's nobody. There's a car here. There's another car out front. But it just is very suspicious why there's nobody here.
Okay, so did you yell or anything, or?
Yeah, I hollered, hey, walked around the building. It just, I don't know.
When police arrived, they found a scene that contradicted the apparent normalcy. Money remained in the register, untouched. Nothing was stolen. But at the back door, where the silver van had been parked, officers discovered a 2-inch pool of biological evidence on the concrete. Nearby lay the battery cover from a handgun's laser sight. The conclusion formed quickly. Jessica Heeringa had been abducted. Someone she possibly knew had lured her outside or grabbed her during a cigarette break. Based on the evidence of injury and the gun part, investigators theorized she'd been struck with a weapon, knocked unconscious, and bundled into that silver van. The back door couldn't be opened from outside. Whoever took Jessica had either convinced her to come out voluntarily or had grabbed her in those brief moments when she stepped outside. The entire abduction had occurred in less than 15 minutes, witnessed only by a store manager who didn't realize what she was seeing until it was too late.
Turning back to our top story this hour and what has now become a desperate effort to find a missing mother, believed to have been abducted from the gas station where she worked in Norton Shores.
Norton Shores police launched an immediate investigation. They contacted the store manager who'd seen the van, creating a sketch of the driver. They had the vehicle model, a silver Chrysler Town & Country minivan. Canine units searched the surrounding area but found nothing. The problem became apparent quickly. Michigan had approximately 15,000 silver Chrysler Town & Country vans registered in the state alone. Without a license plate or more specific identifying features, finding the right vehicle seemed nearly impossible. News broadcasts spread Jessica's photo across Michigan. Her family pleaded for information. Detectives interviewed everyone who'd been at the gas station that night, collecting statements about the mysterious van that had appeared twice. They pulled surveillance footage from nearby businesses, tracking the van's path away from the scene. The footage was grainy, inconclusive. The vehicle disappeared into the night, and so did their best leads. Weeks became months. The investigation stalled. On June 29th, 2014, more than a year after Jessica's disappearance, a 911 call shattered another family.
911, where is your emergency?
We come up to this lady. She's laying in the road. I think she was hit by a car.
Okay.
She's got a head injury.
36-year-old Rebecca Bletch was found collapsed on Automobile Road, approximately 20 minutes from Norton Shores. Initial responders thought she'd been struck by a vehicle while jogging, but investigators quickly determined the truth was far more sinister.
Police say the victim had been shot 3 times in the back of the head and reveal that she suffered bruises to her wrists, hands, back, and leg.
.322 caliber shell casings lay scattered near her body. Rebecca died shortly after being found, never regaining consciousness. The case appeared to be a random attack, perhaps someone targeting joggers. Detectives had no suspects, no witnesses, no clear motive. Like Jessica's case, Rebecca's murder went cold, another unsolved tragedy in eastern Michigan. Nobody yet connected the two cases, but they would. April 2016. Nearly 3 years after Jessica Heeringa vanished, a 16-year-old girl was walking home from a party when she got lost in an unfamiliar neighborhood. A silver van pulled up beside her. The driver, a middle-aged man, asked if she needed a ride. She declined, but asked to borrow his phone to call for help. Something about the situation felt wrong, but she was young, lost, and needed assistance. She climbed into the passenger seat. The moment her door closed, he hit the accelerator. The van lurched forward, speeding down the dark street. He reached under his seat and pulled out a handgun. The teenager made a split-second decision that saved her life. She grabbed the door handle and threw herself from the moving vehicle, hitting the pavement hard. She rolled, scrambled to her feet, and ran toward the nearest house, pounding on the door. The silver van sped away into the night. Police responded immediately. This time, they had surveillance footage from the area, clear enough to identify the vehicle and, eventually, the driver. The silver van was a Chrysler Town & Country. The driver was Jeffrey Willis. Search warrants were issued for Willis's home and vehicle on May 17th, 2016. What investigators found inside that van transformed this from an attempted abduction into evidence of a serial predator's toolkit. Multiple syringes filled with what appeared to be liquid sedatives, handcuffs, wire restraints, a silencing device, rope, prescription medication, and most damning, a .22 caliber handgun with a laser sight. That handgun was missing its battery cover. Ballistics testing immediately connected the weapon to Rebecca Bletch's murder. The bullets that killed her 2 years earlier had come from this gun. The shell casings matched perfectly. But there was more. That battery cover, the one missing from the laser sight, it matched exactly the piece of plastic found at the Exxon station the night Jessica Heeringa disappeared, lying in the biological evidence by the back door. Willis's home computer revealed a mind consumed by violence. Detectives found illicit images involving minors, videos of women in captivity, abduction guides, violent crime footage, some staged, some horrifyingly real. On an external hard drive, investigators discovered a folder labeled VIX with 2 subfolders inside, RSB and JLH, Rebecca Sue Bletch, Jessica Lynn Heeringa. Inside these folders were photographs of both victims, newspaper clippings about their cases, maps of the areas where they'd last been seen. Willis had been collecting trophies, documenting his crimes with chilling precision. His computer passwords told their own story. One frequently used code, J4L27H13, Jessica's initials, and April 27, 2013, the day after she vanished. Detectives dug deeper into Willis's connection to Jessica. They discovered he'd visited her gas station 15 times in the weeks before her abduction. Not for gas, not for snacks. He was studying her, learning her patterns, waiting for the perfect moment. Remember that unsettling customer who'd weirded Jessica out the night before she disappeared? The one who said customers were looking out for her? Witnesses identified him as Jeffrey Willis. Phone records placed Willis near the Exxon station just hours before Jessica's abduction. When questioned, he claimed he'd been home, but cell tower data put him near his grandfather's house, located 7 minutes from the gas station. Willis's grandfather's property would become crucial to the investigation, because that's where prosecutors believe Jessica spent her final hours. In May 2016, as evidence mounted against Willis for Rebecca's murder and Jessica's disappearance, his cousin Kevin Bloom was brought in for questioning. Bloom, a corrections officer with the Michigan Department of Corrections, initially denied knowing anything. Then he cracked. Bloom told investigators that on April 27, 2013, the day after Jessica vanished, Willis had called him over. "I got a woman and we're having a party," Willis said. "You're invited." When Bloom arrived at Willis's grandfather's property, he found Jessica Heeringa unclothed on the floor with a head wound. She was unconscious but still alive. Willis admitted he'd knocked her out at the gas station, loaded her into his van, and brought her there. Bloom claimed Willis assaulted Jessica in the worst way, then killed her. Together, they wrapped her body in a sheet and buried her somewhere on the property. Bloom's story kept changing. He'd confess, recant, confess again. At one point, he claimed he'd made everything up. But he knew details about both Jessica's and Rebecca's cases that had never been made public. Details only someone present could know. Eventually, Bloom pleaded no contest to being an accessory after the fact. He received time served, plus 5 years probation. He was released, fitted with a GPS monitor, and walked free. Jeffrey Willis wasn't so lucky. Willis's trial for Rebecca Bletch's murder began in May 2017. The evidence was overwhelming. The murder weapon found in his van, his DNA, his history of targeting women. Prosecutors argued he'd tried to abduct Rebecca while she was jogging, and when she fought back, he executed her. The jury deliberated briefly, guilty of first-degree murder, life without parole. Jessica Heeringa's trial followed in May 2018.
But you will not have evidence that he killed or kidnapped Ms. Heeringa.
The defense argued the state had no body, no witnesses to an actual murder, no physical proof Jessica was dead. They suggested the silver van seen behind the gas station belonged to someone else. They pointed out that Michigan had 15,000 similar vehicles. They noted Jessica struggled with substance issues and suggested she might have left voluntarily. The prosecutor countered with an avalanche of circumstantial evidence: Willis's obsessive visits to Jessica's workplace, his failure to show up for his factory job the night she disappeared and the days after, his phone placing him near the scene, the battery cover from his laser sight found in Jessica's blood, the folders on his computer, the password incorporating her initials, and the date of her death. Witnesses testified about the silver van, the timeline, Willis's creepy behavior the night before Jessica vanished. An anonymous tip during the original investigation had led police to search near a cabin in the woods. They'd found nothing, but a neighbor reported seeing Willis there 2 days after that search, digging with a shovel. The defense made much of a peculiarity at the crime scene. When the store manager witnessed the van behind the Exxon station, she said the backlight was off, making the area very dark. But when police arrived after the 911 call, that light was on. The switch was inside the store. If the light was off when Jessica was taken, who turned it on? The prosecution suggested Jessica herself might have turned it on before being lured outside. Or Willis had entered through the front, convinced her to come out back, then taken her. The exact sequence didn't matter. What mattered was the totality of the evidence. After 90 minutes of deliberation, the jury reached its verdict. Count 1, open murder, guilty of first-degree premeditated murder and first-degree felony murder. Count 2, kidnapping, guilty. Willis received life without parole.
But they do perhaps have the comfort tonight of knowing the man who may have killed her.
Jeffrey Willis, a man prosecutors have called a monster.
At sentencing, Willis addressed the court. His voice was calm, measured, utterly devoid of emotion or remorse.
I am innocent. I stand before you today proof that the promise of Gideon is dead. Not only did the justice system for indigent defense fail here, but the promise of equal protection and due process as well.
He spoke for several minutes about constitutional principles, about fairness, about the failures of the legal system. He never mentioned Jessica Heeringa by name, never acknowledged Rebecca Blech, never expressed sympathy for the families he'd destroyed. The prosecutor responded with barely contained fury.
This man is probably one of the most dangerous men that I hope to ever encounter in my career. He shows no remorse, no lack, no ounce of dignity or integrity.
It's clear that the justice system has the right place for him, and that's behind bars for the rest of his natural life. He continued, "We have successfully locked up an individual who, had he not been caught and captured, would have continued his killing in this particular community. So with that, Judge, I'm going to sleep very well tonight knowing that Mr. Willis will never see a lucky day again." Despite Kevin Bloom's confession about helping bury Jessica, her remains have never been recovered. Extensive searches of Willis's grandfather's property yielded nothing. The woods near the cabin where Willis was seen digging turned up empty. Jessica's family still doesn't have closure. They can't give her a proper burial. They can't visit a grave. They have a conviction, but not complete answers. What terrifies investigators most is how close Willis came to never being caught. If that 16-year-old girl hadn't jumped from his moving van in April 2016, if she hadn't reported him immediately, Jeffrey Willis might still be prowling Michigan's roads in his silver van looking for victims. The connection between Jessica's and Rebecca's cases was pure chance. The attempted abduction led to the search warrant, which led to connecting two seemingly unrelated crimes 3 years apart. Willis's computer revealed an obsession with abduction and murder that likely spanned years. His carefully organized folders, his methodical stalking of Jessica, his apparent random targeting of Rebecca while she jogged, all suggest a practiced predator who'd refined his methods over time. Investigators continue to review cold cases in Michigan and neighboring states, looking for connections. Was Willis responsible for other disappearances, other unsolved murders? The FBI has examined his travel patterns, his work history, anywhere he might have had opportunity. So far, he's only been definitively linked to Jessica and Rebecca. But detectives who worked the case privately expressed doubts. A man doesn't suddenly become this organized, this methodical, this comfortable with violence. Skills like Willis demonstrated are learned through practice. How many victims might there be that we don't know about? How many cases attributed to runaways or accidents might actually have been murders? These questions haunt the investigators who finally stopped Jeffrey Willis. The 16-year-old who escaped Willis's van in 2016 saved not only her own life, but potentially dozens of others. Her quick thinking, her bravery in jumping from a moving vehicle, her immediate report to police, all contributed to ending Willis's predation. She's never been publicly identified, protected by her age and the nature of the crime. But her testimony was crucial in Willis's conviction for attempted kidnapping. Without her willingness to identify him in a lineup, without her detailed description of events, the entire case might have unfolded differently. Law enforcement officials credit her courage with breaking the case open. One detective said, "That young woman is a hero. She didn't know it at the time, but she stopped a serial killer." How many lives did she save that night? We'll never know for sure, but I believe the number is significant. Norton Shores, Michigan, was never the same after Jessica Heeringa's disappearance. The small community, where people prided themselves on knowing their neighbors, suddenly felt vulnerable. If a predator could operate undetected for years, if someone could vanish from a gas station on a Friday night, who was truly safe? After Willis's arrest, numerous women came forward with stories of uncomfortable encounters. A silver van that followed them. A man who appeared too often, watched too long, asked too many questions. Each story painted a picture of a predator who'd been hunting for years, testing boundaries, looking for opportunities. Gas stations across the region changed their policies. No more solo late-night shifts. Improved lighting. Security cameras became standard, not optional. Jessica's law, proposed in the Michigan State Legislature, sought to mandate minimum security measures for businesses open after midnight. Her family continues to advocate for missing persons cases, speaking at events, pushing for improved investigation protocols. Dakota Dyer, Jessica's boyfriend, told reporters, "We want something positive to come from this tragedy. We want other families to find their loved ones, to get the answers we didn't get for 3 years." Jessica Heeringa's family attended every day of Jeffrey Willis's trial. They listened to testimony about her final moments, about the evidence found in his van, about Kevin Bloom's confession. They heard Willis declare his innocence, heard him speak about constitutional principles while never acknowledging their daughter's name. They watched him receive a life sentence. They saw justice served in the legal sense. But they still don't have Jessica. "We just want to bring her home," her mother told reporters after the verdict. "We want to give her a proper burial. We want a place to visit, to talk to her, to leave flowers. Jeffrey Willis took so much from us. He could give us this one thing. He could tell us where she is, but he won't. That's the kind of person he is." Willis has never revealed where Jessica's remains are located. He maintains his innocence, refusing to discuss the case or provide any information that might help locate her body. This final act of cruelty denies the Heeringa family complete closure. Looking back, investigators identified multiple warning signs that Jeffrey Willis was dangerous. His elementary school firing, his obsessive visiting patterns at the gas station, the complaints from women about his van following them. Each incident, viewed individually, seemed minor. Collectively, they painted a portrait of escalating predatory behavior. But no system existed to connect these dots. No database tracked men fired from schools for misconduct involving digital devices. No agency monitored patterns of complaints about specific vehicles or individuals. Willis operated in the gaps between jurisdictions, between databases, between awareness. Since his arrest, Michigan has worked to close some of these gaps. Schools now share information about problematic employees more effectively. Police departments have better systems for tracking suspicious person reports. Communities are more aware of the warning signs of predatory behavior. These changes came too late for Jessica Heeringa and Rebecca Bletch, but they might save future victims. Jeffrey Willis sits in a Michigan maximum security prison, serving 2 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. He's 54 years old. He'll die in that cell, never again free to hunt, to harm, to satisfy his violent fantasies. Jessica Heeringa would be 37 years old today. Her son, who was 3 when she disappeared, is now a teenager. He has almost no memories of his mother, only stories told by family, and photographs of a woman he barely knew. Rebecca Bletch left behind a family who never saw justice coming. Her case was cold for 2 years before Willis's arrest connected the dots. The 16-year-old who escaped is now in her mid-20s, forever marked by those terrifying minutes in Willis's van, but alive because she trusted her instincts and acted decisively. Kevin Bloom, who helped bury Jessica Heeringa's body, served minimal time and walks free today, wearing a GPS monitor and living with the knowledge of what he did. The store manager who witnessed the van behind the Exxon station that night still wonders if she could have done something different, seen something more, prevented what happened. These are the ripples from Jeffrey Willis's crimes, spreading outward, affecting dozens of lives, changing a community forever. And somewhere in Michigan, in woods or water or buried earth, Jessica Heeringa still waits to be found, to be brought home, to receive the dignity in death that Jeffrey Willis stole from her in life. The case is closed, the killer is imprisoned, but for the Heeringa family, one question remains unanswered. Where is Jessica?